This morning, Secretary Napolitano announced new actions my administration will take to mend our nation's immigration policy, to make it more fair, more efficient, and more just, specifically for certain young people, sometimes called dreamers. Now, these are young people who study in our schools, they play in our neighborhoods, they're friends with our kids, they pledge allegiance to our flag. They are Americans in their heart, in their minds, in every single way but one, on paper.
That was President Obama this afternoon in the Rose Garden, explaining a big change in U.S. immigration policy, changes that some are calling a step in the right direction, others are calling amnesty. As per the president's directive, all deportations will now stop for undocumented immigrants who were brought to the U.S. before they turn 16. They have to be younger than 30, must have been in the United States for 5 years or longer, no criminal history. They have to have a high school diploma or a GED or have served time in the military. Now, those people will be eligible for work permits that will last 2 years and can be renewed without limit every 2 years after that. The president went on to explain the reasoning for his decision, comments that were actually interrupted by a journalist/heckler.
It is the right thing to do. Excuse me, sir. It's not time for questions, sir. Not while I'm speaking. We are a better nation than one that expels innocent young kids. And the answer to your question, sir, and the next time I'd prefer you let me finish my statements before you ask that question, is this is the right thing to do for the American people. Baby, I didn't ask for an argument. I'm answering your question. It is the right thing to do for the American people, and here's why. Here's the reason. Because these young people are going to make extraordinary contributions and are already making contributions to our society. I've got a young person who is serving in our military, protecting us and our freedom. The notion that in some ways we would treat them as expendable makes no sense.
Reaction coming from all corners. Mitt Romney out with a statement offering, I guess, what you would call tepid support of the president's decision today. We also heard from a leading advocate for immigration reform in our region, New Jersey Senator Robert Menendez, a Democrat who is also the son of Cuban immigrants.
These are children who came to the United States through no decision of their own. Most of them were, infants when they came. And so the bottom line is the only flag they pledge allegiance to is that of the United States. The only national anthem they know is the Star-Spangled Banner. We've already made investments in them in public education. In essence, they want to earn their way towards achieving some type of status in this country. And so the president's decision allows them to do that if they serve honorably in the armed forces of the United States, if they are otherwise qualified to go to college and have the wherewithal to do it, they will have that opportunity. I think this is a reasonable decision and one that, many members on the Republican side of the aisle asked for as well.
All right, I'm not even going to ask the panel about the president's rationale behind this. I'm sure I will get a handful of this is all just politics and farming for votes. I want to get your take on the policy itself, the policy change. Do you look at this as amnesty for illegal immigrants or a reward for people who brought their kids to the U.S. illegally?
First I'd like to say that I think it's all politics.
I'm shocked. I'm absolutely shocked to hear you say that.
Let me carry that one step further.
Oh, boy.
What he's doing, look, I have great respect for the Oval Office, for the Rose Garden, know it well.
You spent some time there.
But he's not commander-in-chief. He's not the, he is acting here, not as president, but as campaigner-in-chief. And as campaigner-in-chief, to a certain extent, I don't blame that reporter for it. The president has been skirting against the rules
Mr. Chair,
with respect
don't
to
blame that reporter. He broke protocol with the president of the United States.
But the president is breaking protocol using Air Force One for campaign trips, so he doesn't have to pay.
But so did President Bush.
Not to this extent.
But we all know, Mr. Chair, they scheduled a fundraiser and then they justify the trip.
Okay, time because this
is coming back to immigration.
This is where we get off the rails because it's.
No, but the chairman made the point. They all do it. Let's be honest about it. They scheduled a fundraising trip and then they scheduled public events to justify the cost of Air Force One, the Secret Service.
Okay, immigration.
But let me tell you, he saw Marco Rubio coming on this. Marco Rubio was going to come out with this kind of a policy, a Republican
Very similar to
senator
Marco
from
Rubio's
Florida.
policy.
He was
It's
about to
very
come
similar.
out, and
That's
the
right.
President of the United States, for political reasons, I'm going to trump the Republicans and come out with this, and he used the Rose Garden to
Also-
do it.
yeah.
Well, you know,
And so
well,
it's another stop in the political campaign.
The president promised all Hispanic leaders, he promised La Raza and lots of other organizations that he would deal with the immigration issue in this term.
Okay,
now, with
but-
5 months left in the term,
Okay.
he throws out a little tiny bit like this.
But what about Mr.
Because
Romney?
Arizona is in play, because
But what
Florida's
about
in
Mr.
play.
Romney, who went off the cliff? He's not even in the running in terms of connecting with Latino leaders on immigration, and now he's trying to dance his way back to the left.
Well, his potential vice presidential candidate, Marco Rubio, was about to come out on something, so the president had to act. Actually, this is pretty good because you see the Republicans forcing the hand of the president to do something that ought to be done.
But you can do the right thing for the wrong reasons or the right thing for questionable reasons. Back to the actual policy itself, do we think this is amnesty? Do we think this is a step in the right direction? Is this a policy you want to see in place in the United
Bottom line
States?
is you don't know because he's using prosecutorial discretion of the executive office to put in place a policy that can be revoked any time by the executive simply by changing this as prosecutorial discretion. Decide what you're going to do. Instead of going through the legislative process where you put this in the context of
Mr.
immigration
Chair,
reform
Mr.
generally.
Chair, we all know, and you know I've known you many years, I have great respect for you, but is it really an option to put it before the legislative process? Or would that be a catch-22 that he couldn't win no matter what?
It's much better to use the legislative process because you have a full examination of it. When you use prosecutorial discretion here, it is a decision made by one group of people or one man even, and you don't know what the ramifications of it are and how it's going to impact all the changes that ought to be made in the immigration. That's why you have a legislative process.